Hey everyone, welcome to the walkthrough video for Vibrant's new portal customization feature. I'm going to show you how to use this new feature and make it really straightforward and simple. It's pretty intuitive, but there are a few things that we want to just point out as far as its functionality, how to use it, and how to get the most out of this tool. So the first thing you're going to do is log into your provider portal. This is usually the default view that you will see. Most of the time, it should show your list of patients that you've run labs on. You're going to search for or select the patient that you want to do this customization for. Just, pick one if you're just kind of going in for the first time and playing around. So if you don't see this screen, what you want to do is you want to click on the patient's tab up at the top and it will take you to this screen. So once you've found the patient that you want to do this customization for, you're going to select that and the page is going to load with that sort of default patient profile that shows up and all of this information, whatever the patient has entered on their requisition is usually where this comes from. You can also, by the way, if you're not super familiar with this page, you can see all of the testing that's been ordered on that patient in that draw that you clicked on, the draw date that you selected. And this will tell you what tests were ordered for that particular patient. So you may be familiar with this view, and you may notice that now if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a new option on this right-hand menu that says Customized Report. And that's what we're going to click on today. That's going to take you to another screen where you can view sample reports for anything that you've ordered on the patient. So that's going to be their VA labs. Vibrant America is, of course, our diagnostic side. And then Vibrant Wellness is our wellness and integrative functional medicine side. So cash versus insurance is another way that you can look at it. Complete refers to the entire report for each test you've ordered for the patient. Summary refers to just the first few pages that give you the summarized information. So for instance, on the wheat zoomer or the lectin zoomer is a really good example of this. The summary report shows just the first few pages and it gives you the table of positive, moderate, and negative. And then the complete lectin zoomer report might be 30 to 40 pages long because it also includes all of the descriptive antibodies, information about each one, as well as some additional information on the test. So it's up to you which version you want to download. If you're going to email them, it probably doesn't matter. If you're printing them in the office and handing them to a patient, we give you the option of downloading a summary, and you can certainly email the full report or upload it into an EMR or other file transfer system that's HIPAA compliant. So for today's purposes, what we're going to do is go into the Customize Report feature. Now, this system is built to allow you, the healthcare provider, to create a really nice looking handout to give to your patient that's going to give them all the important things you want them to know, from diet and food and all the way through any supplement customized protocols that you're recommending, lifestyle interventions that you want them to do, and then any other additional notes you want included. And it's going to generate this really nice customized report. And as we go through each of these steps, you're going to see this update over here on the left-hand side. So I'm going to just maximize the screen here. The first thing that you're doing here is you're going to give a diet recommendation. Now, if you don't select any of these diet filters and you just hit submit, what's going to populate is all of the results from that patient's testing that you've run. This is based on food sensitivity and food zoomers, as well as a few of the items in this list come from the micronutrient test. So to give some clarity there, anything that says foods you can eat would be foods that the patient does not have elevated antibodies to on the food zoomers or food sensitivity test. The foods to avoid are foods the patient had antibodies to on any of those tests. And so this has been filtered by what to eat and what not to eat. Now you have an option here to include a rotation plan to the final report. And we'll take a look at what that looks like when we get to the very end. You can see what that rotation plan looks like. But it basically, you see this little thumbnail pop up on the left here. It's going to give the patient a 4-day rotation plan based on foods they can eat. And it kind of creates a system where they're rotating foods, not eating the same thing every day. That's essentially what we want to encourage these patients to do to prevent further food sensitivities happening, is to rotate foods and get out of the habit of eating the same 10 foods over and over. Now, a few of the items that pop up in this list are not foods we test for. So for instance, chicken liver is not specifically a food that we are testing for on the food sensitivity or food zoomers. However, it is a food that's recommended based on a micronutrient deficiency. And so it will pop up in this list as this is a recommended food. So that's just to give some clarity. You may see a few of those come up that are not on our test, and that's generally where they come from. So once we've gotten this, what we can do if we decide we want to apply a filter, so let's say, for instance, that you want your patient to be totally grain-free or perhaps paleo. You notice that they have some gluten-free grains as well as grains listed here, and despite their wheat zoomer not indicating they should be gluten-free, if there's no antibodies on the wheat zoomer, for instance, it's not going to show up that they need to be gluten-free. But perhaps you have your patient on a protocol, or you have a sort of initial intensive program where you want them following a more rigorous diet. You can go back, or you can do this before you hit submit. You can either hit edit from that screen or do this first. You can select any of these diet filters to customize that list. So let's say that we want the patient on a paleo diet, and maybe this is a SIBO patient, so we also initially want them on a low FODMAP diet. If I hit submit, it's going to change these food lists, and you see that now some of these foods that were on the allowed list are going to move over to the foods to avoid list, and that's based on those filters. And you'll notice that anything that has those red asterisks next to it are foods that were removed based on your diet filters. And there will be this little disclaimer down here at the bottom that says that these foods were required to avoid by your provider. So that's not based on their food sensitivity testing. It's based on your diet filters you apply. So now that we have that, we have our diet suggestion, we can move on to protocols. If I want to assign a protocol, this is a supplement protocol, to my patient, I can select from a pretty big list of categories. These are think of them as buckets. So these are buckets of things that diseases, conditions, and symptoms fit into, and they're fairly broad. What's going to be checked for you these are things that are suggested based on the tests that you have ordered. Now, you may not necessarily want these. You can uncheck anything that you don't want to select a protocol from. So perhaps you really just want to focus on gastrointestinal and liver detoxification. Okay, so maybe we have 2 broad categories that we want to create a protocol from. Once you select that, you're going to hit Design Protocol. And what pops up here is going to be a system that you can pick from leading professional supplement lines that have that have protocols that healthcare providers have created. So these are created by leading experts in the industry that have said, you know what, I use this brand, and this is the protocol from this brand that I use for this particular thing. Now, it's important to know that we're not saying that this Alzheimer's protocol of supplements treats Alzheimer's disease, because that is not supported by the FDA. That's not an FDA cleared statement to make. What this is a support protocol. So if you have a patient with Alzheimer's disease, this is a supplement protocol that can support that patient's treatment process, perhaps nutritionally with supplements or nutrients that they may be lacking. So just to clarify the information that's displayed here. Now on this screen, you can do a number of things. What's going to show up is initially all protocols available. There's quite a few. And as new brands are added, you will see additional, the list expand. You can go to custom, which means this is something that you have created, and we'll get to that step here in a minute, or default, which is basically just going to be all of them initially. You can search by keywords. So let's say I want to create an intestinal permeability protocol. I can search by a keyword, and I can see that Designs for Health has an intestinal permeability support protocol that I can use. And there's a couple of brands in here. As this grows, there will be additional brands entered. So let's say that I want to select that for my gastrointestinal protocol. That now should show up in this drop down. I'm going to scroll past the micronutrients here for a second. This is where the selected supplement protocol that I pick is going to show up. It's going to show up down here. Any protocol I select from up here is going to show up down there. So I have my intestinal permeability, and then perhaps I want to select something related to liver. So let's see, so promote detoxification. So if I select that, now I should see two. So I have two different ones down here now. Now, let's say that I like this and I don't need to make any changes or add anything. What I would do is just click confirm. But let's say I want to make some adjustments to the doses or duration, or even the products that are down here. I can click on add or customize your protocols. At this point, what I can do right here is, let's say that I want to change the intestinal permeability protocol. Or, well, for the sake of ease right here, let's say we want to change the detoxification one, since that comes up first. I can change the name of maybe I want to substitute a different brand here. Maybe I want to change which supplement is being used. Perhaps I want to change the frequency of the dose, so maybe less often or more often, right? Or maybe I want to remove a supplement entirely, okay? Now, it's important to know that this only changes this for you in your portal, it's going to create a custom protocol at this point. It doesn't change it for everyone else. So it's okay to make these changes here. And once I'm done, any changes I want to make, and I can write down here, any additional comments. So take between meals, for instance. I'm going to hit save. And what I need to do is actually name it. So you could leave the name the same and just put in here, your name. Okay, so whoever you are, or you can call it whatever you want. Okay, you're going to hit save. And then that's going to save down there as your own custom protocol. Then you can go in and delete whichever ones you don't want. Okay, so once you've done that, you can make any adjustments you want. You can also create something entirely new. So let's say that you want to create your own brain health protocol. What's going to pop up would be just a default protocol from one that's already in the system. And you can go in and just remove all of the products that are there and basically, create from scratch what you would want. So let's say that I want to use a Metagenics product, and whatever the product name is, let's say maybe this is their vitamin E, and I want someone to take 2 capsules twice a day with meals that contain fat. I'm gonna hit save, and I can call it whatever I want. Okay, so that also saves down there, and I'll show you where you can, I'll show you right now where you can go find those. Whenever you go in to select protocols in the future, you will see those populate. Well, actually, once we save through this entire thing, it saves it into the system. So now, one thing that I scrolled past is the micronutrient deficiency. So the micronutrients, this is going to populate anything that was deficient on that patient's micronutrient test. This section only comes up if you order a micronutrient test. It's not going to be there if you don't. And any deficiencies that were found on that test are going to prompt a supplement recommendation or nutrient recommendation here. And you can edit, you can remove, you can decide not to add this entire table if you want to. So it's up to you what you want to do with this information. But let's say that and so what's going to default is the sort of RDA type of recommendation. So it's typically going to be something pretty low by functional medicine standards. Obviously, 250 micrograms of vitamin D is typically not something that anybody recommends. So perhaps I want this to be 5,000 IUs. So I'm going to make changes to anything that I want to make changes to here. And once I save, or once I click out of that, it saves the information, anything that you want to make changes to. If you want to add that to your final table, you're just going to check this box right here. One other thing I wanted to highlight up here is, in addition to searching by, let me clear this out so you can see more information here. In addition to searching by condition, so you can, perhaps you don't want to see all of these conditions available. You really just want to look at certain categories. You can check and uncheck, and it will then filter that for you. You can also filter by brand. So any brands that are going to populate, and again, this list is going to expand as we enter more of these in there. We're working on that at the moment. And the protocol names. So you can see all the protocol names available, so that this actually can give you kind of an idea of what to search for. So for instance, heavy metal removal, hypothyroidism, multiple sclerosis, there's a variety of different things in here. So if you're not really sure what to search for, or keywords, that can be something that you can look to for a little bit of guidance. All right, so now that we've entered the information we want to enter, down here at this bottom part, disclaimer is really important here. It's very critical to understand what this system is, what it's intended for, and what the expectation is here as far as Vibrant, you, the healthcare provider, any of the company names mentioned. So I'm just gonna read it really quick and explain what we're saying. The statements and protocols here have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. So remember, these protocols that have conditions associated with them are not evaluated for treatment of those conditions. The products listed in such protocols are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The information, comments, and opinions are for educational purposes only. At no time should it take the place of individualized evaluation and treatment recommendations provided by a qualified and licensed healthcare practitioner in the context of a clinical relationship. Practitioners should evaluate the above information using their expertise, coupled with each patient's individualized assessment. Providers must be licensed and eligible to order the supplements from the appropriate companies. Please confirm with the appropriate nutraceutical company if you have any questions about orders or supplement protocols. So the takeaway message from that is, if you are using this system, you are assuming 100% liability for any recommendations you make, especially as concerns the supplement protocols. Vibrant is not the recommending agency here. The healthcare provider using the system assumes liability in both ordering, testing, as well as creating interventions and treatment protocols. There's also an element that within your scope of practice assigned by your credential, there may be certain credentials that have certain scope of practice that allow them to order or recommend supplements, and other credentials may not. That is typically governed by your state, and it's up to you to know, as far as the laws that govern your state's clinical practice guidelines, whether or not you can legally use that. We can provide this system. However, if you use it and you legally should not be using it, the liability still falls on the healthcare provider to know what they can and cannot do. Any questions regarding supplements should be directed towards the supplement company in question. Vibrant does not have information or educational resources on any of the brands and supplements mentioned in these protocols. So if you have a question about why is this supplement in this protocol, direct it towards the brand associated. So if it's Designs for Health or Metagenics and so forth, please direct it towards those companies and not Vibrant, because we do not have that information. These protocols are created by healthcare providers in the industry. They're not created by us or the supplement company. So just need to get through that little bit of clarity there. Now, back to creating this customized report. We have everything in here we can confirm, and you can always go back and change things. So if you forgot something or you want to make another change, it's not final. Even once you create the customized report, you could go back in and make another one for the same patient. The next box that's going to pop up here are suggested tests. And this is going to be based on tests that you have ordered and markers on those tests or analytes on those tests that are abnormal. So for instance, we might recommend the gut zoomer to run on a patient with low vitamin K2 based on Bacillus subtilis populations, as that is a microbe that generates vitamin K2 in the gut. And so if someone has a vitamin K2 deficiency, you might want to look and see if perhaps they have a low abundance of this particular bacteria. So that's sort of the thinking and logic behind that. If you want to add this to the final report, it simply just aids your clinical practice as, you know what, based on these test findings, these are some tests that I recommend that we look at. And so that just gives the patient something else. It's also a great way to boost visits and follow up with patients to say, you know what, we've ordered this, here are your results, let's work on these things. And now these are some additional tests I'd really like to run in the future or now, depending on how you want to run that. And, just kind of think about this based on the patient's, budget and resources or time. This is a great way to keep that patient coming back into your practice and get follow-up visit revenue as well as additional testing revenue. So you can add that. Lifestyle recommendations, this is going to be guides that are developed for the food zoomers primarily. There's a few that are like the neural zoomer or tick-borne guide. And, I can decide, all right, I'd like to add the corn-free guide and maybe the seafood-free guide. I already have my own gluten or wheat-free guide that I really like, so I don't really need to add this one. Whichever ones I want to add, I'm just going to check those, and those are going to get added to the final report that generates. And then maybe I want to write some comments down here that are not related to anything we've gone over yet. So perhaps lifestyle things, so focus on getting 7 hours or more sleep each night, drink 100 or more ounces of water per day, anything else I want to type. And then once I'm done, I've entered all my information. I'm going to save as PDF. And this will take just a minute for the report to generate everything. All right, so here is our final personalized report. This is going to give you, remember, the food list that you created at the beginning with your filters applied, lets the patient know what they can eat, what they can't eat, or should eat and shouldn't eat. It's going to give them their rotation diet. So it's going to tell them these are the proteins to eat, the seafoods, the fruits, the vegetables, seeds, nuts, etc. by category. And it's going to have those filters applied. So remember, we selected a paleo diet here, so there's no grains, no dairy. Most of the vegan foods are taken out because most variations on that will have soy, so therefore not paleo. And then, so forth. All right, so we've got that. And then next we've got the supplement protocols that we put in here. And then we have the personalized nutrients. So this is, in addition to these protocols that I've created, here are some additional nutrients I want you to be taking or getting from food. So this is another important thing too. This doesn't necessarily have to be, I want you to get this much vitamin C from a supplement. This could simply be between supplements and food. I really want you to be shooting for this. Another great thing is that the comments that populate over here also give you a little bit of a heads up on things that could interfere with this nutrient metabolism or absorption. So if you're not that familiar with that, or that's not something that you keep, right at hand, there's some lists of just some basic medications that might be affecting that patient's nutrient status. Tests that we wanted them to consider, we can explain that to them, and then any additional comments that we wanted them to know of. And then at the end, it's going to have those really nice guides as far as how to go corn-free or wheat-free, or whichever one we selected. So if this is something that's not your area of expertise, if you're just not that familiar with all of the hidden sources of some of these foods, how to best guide the patient on cooking, especially because some of these foods are ingredients that are very ubiquitous in the food supply, and they're found all over. So these guides are geared towards that same thing. Some of them are going to have more information than others. So it's this really nice handout. It looks, beautiful. It has your information on it, what you've customized for that patient. And, basically, so you're going to see like your provider name, your contact information, and it's going to be there for you to hand that patient. Here's exactly what I want you to do. So it's this great little solution, essentially, that's packaged up for you between diet, supplement, lifestyle, and anything else. So if you have any questions or suggestions, we're open to that. This is an ever-evolving tool. So as this grows and as more information is added and additional brands are put into the system, you will see that. And anything else you'd like to see as far as features and functionality, please reach out to us and let us know what you think would be helpful and how you think that it could best serve your practice or other providers. We're more than happy to hear that. So thanks, everyone. Just let us know what your thoughts are.